Hey, everybody. Editor's note here. This podcast was recorded the Sunday before the PDF book was released. So everything here is pre release. So give us that grain of salt. Thank you.
Hey everybody, welcome to an episode of Ramblings from the Warp from Late Night Dice. This is Gabe as always, joined by Kyle and Christian.
How y'all doing, fellas?
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
And ladies, since Christian's a dick. So, interesting news. I don't know if you guys saw the release or not, but Games Workshop put out a message. Did you guys see this?
We're sorry. We suck. You might get your PDF eventually by the time the cows come home.
So they sent out a message that basically said, hey, we know all you guys are really excited about this book. We're really excited about this book. That's what we're trying to get done right. And then we heard the ramblings from the back of the room where people were just like, you mean like you didn't do the books? Right? And so they're saying that they're hoping within the week. But much like Seth Green in Road Trip, I'm going to hold my breath on that one. But a couple of new things. If you weren't going to buy the new starter box, but you still wanted stuff out of it, they did break the boxes down into individual purchases. So you can go and get just the Praetors or just the Centurions or just the Saturnines.
I wonder what the breakdown of that price-wise, if it's still a better bang for your buck to get the box, or
Wholeheartedly, it's always going to be better to just buy the box because the rule book is still like $70, something like that. So you think the box is $315, the rule book's is $70. If you just go off of HQs and the gun, I mean, the Saturnine Praetor's 52, the Centurion is 38. So that's 90 with 70. You're already at 170, and we haven't even gotten to the Mark II Marines, the Saturnines. Like, it definitely, the box is still a better way to go, but there are a lot of people who have no interest in having more bodies. A lot of guys already have a bunch of Marines. They don't need more. So there's a chance to like buy them split up. And they release the disintegrator rifles as their own sprue.
Nice.
That's pretty cool. Another interesting thing that happened was that they released the version of the Saturnine Dreadnought, the Ophion configuration. There's a Chiron and an Ophion. The Chiron is what came in the box set. The Ophion is the one with the reverse conversion and grav gun.
Sorry, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Chiron.
Okay.
Hey, they get the spelling right in the book. I don't have to get the wording right.
Did they misspell the spelling of Chiron?
No, it's Chiron.
Yeah, that's a Greek god, just like Orpheon. Ish. Orpheus.
I tell you what, when I get my PDF, I'll call it Chiron. Until then, it's Chiron.
Look, GW don't even know what language they're printing these rules out in sometimes, or what fucking, so our pronunciation could be whatever the heck we want it to be until someone proves us wrong in the comments.
Today we're doing a 2.0 send off with a crew down in Victoria, Texas, and it was a funny thing. They were like, "Who wrote these rules?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, man," because when you read them, it feels real like record dealish. We're like here on in perpetuity throughout the universe. Like the words were definitely written in lawyerese. But yeah, there's some exciting drops. Another thing, I don't know if you guys saw this or not. Did you guys see that they dropped an Age of Darkness specific dice set?
No, does it look cool?
No, I haven't been keeping up with anything this week, so everything you're telling me is fresh, which is pretty good. It seems like we have a more positive stuff than last week.
Yeah, so they dropped an Age of Darkness box set, which is basically just the Eye of Horus on black and silver dice.
Okay.
So it's Age of Darkness, which isn't bad. Beyond that, most of the other stuff, there's not a whole lot of news. Everyone's just waiting with bated breath for the PDF. I know that pretty much everyone I've talked to has had the same concern, which is how do I build an army?
Yeah, it's confusing.
It's definitely tricky. If you guys want to get into it, we can break it down right quick.
Yeah,
go for it.
Understand it.
So, okay. So, the full breakdown on this, it's really straightforward once you understand it. But this is one of those, like, pictures help.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, if you're listening and you have your book, we are starting at page 282 of your Age of Darkness rulebook. Technically, we're starting at page 284, but we're going to reference pages 280 to 284. I'm going to explain them. I'm going to explain the references. So, every army must contain a primary crusade detachment. Must have that detachment. Has to, right? Here's where GW's wording doesn't make sense. You are not required to fill any slot in any detachment. You just have the option to do so. So your primary detachment has 1 high command, 3 command, 4 troops choices, and 4 transports. You are not required to fill any of those slots. Clearly, you have to build an army. But the reason that wording is there will become a little bit more understandable as we progress through this fuckery of a web. There's no other way to put it. Building a list in this edition is going to have a lot of meth energy. So there are different kinds of auxiliary detachments, apex detachments, and just additional detachments. So things to know. If you take a selection in your high command slot of your primary crusade detachment, this will be any of your, like, your Praetors, Praetor and Saturnines. In certain armies, this will be your high named characters. They will have, the sideways looking Praetor with a beaky helmet. That will allow you the option to unlock one of two things. Either you can unlock an additional detachment or the apex detachments. This is all on page 284, by the way.
Yeah, that additional attachment, though, isn't that the auxiliary detachment? It's
No.
like apex and auxiliary?
No. This is where it's a little confusing. The only way to unlock an apex detachment is to take a high command in the primary detachment. Period. End of story. But you are not required to pick the apex. It allows you to bring an apex detachment or an auxiliary detachment or the additional detachments, right? You can bring any you want. The big difference in the wording is there are 3 additional detachments. One is called a Warlord detachment, one is called a Lord of War detachment, and one is called an Allied detachment. These do not require you to take anything in the primary list. What makes it difficult to add them is they still kept the original rules around Lords of War, and they've added a couple of caveats. Your Warlord detachment is what allows you to bring a Primarch. It opens up the ability to bring a Primarch model, a retinue model, and a heavy transport. Important changes from 2nd edition to 3rd edition is that you cannot bring a Warlord model, so a Primarch, in any game below 3,000 points. It's 3,000 or better to bring a Primarch, period, anymore. Right? The next thing is Lord of Wars and your Primarchs still cannot be more than 25% of your main force. Allied detachments. The Allied detachment has another caveat to it that says that it cannot be more than 50%. So the additional detachments, the Warlord, the Lord of War, and the Allied detachments, those have point restrictions as to what you can take in those detachments point-wise. The Warlord detachment, that's always going to be your Primarch and whatever else, but that Warlord can still not be 25% of your army. The Lords of War cannot be more than 25% of your army, and the Allied detachment cannot be more than 50% of your army, because an Allied detachment is not going to be bigger than the main force. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So going back to the Crusade detachment and how that interacts. When you take a high command, it will allow you to open one Apex detachment or one auxiliary detachment. It is the only slot that opens the Apex detachments, which are good detachments. That's how you get 3 elite slots or 2 more HQ slots or 3 retinue slots. Where this starts to get more confusing is when you look at your command slots. Every time you take a command slot, it will unlock one auxiliary detachment. But there is a special rule called Officer of the Line. There are certain HQs that have it, and all Centurions have it. And what they'll say is they'll say, Officer of the Line 2, similar to how you guys see things like attacks 2 or rending, 2+, or whatever else it may be, right? Officer of the Line 2 says that if you put a command model in that command Crusade detachment slot, it unlocks 2 additional detachments rather than 1. You follow me so far? Okay. So if you put something in your high command, you unlock an Apex or an auxiliary. If you put something in your command, you can unlock an auxiliary. If whatever you put in that command has Officer of the Line with a number, you will unlock that many additional detachments. The reason why the detachment stuff is so tricky and why army building is so complicated is Games Workshop has kind of done some things to break up how your army composition can be built. You guys saw, I was working on these salamanders for a while, getting ready for Warzone next month. And the 2.0 variation of the list was straightforward. It was great. 3.0, this list isn't viable because the Pyroclast count as an elite. The Fire Drakes count as a heavy assault, or vice versa. I think that's backwards. The Venator counts as a tank. The Spartan counts as a heavy transport. And then the support squad counts as a support, which isn't in the primary detachment. So for me to make this army viable, I'm going to have to add additional models to unlock additional detachments, just because of the way that the selections broke down. Right? If you look in the primary detachment, the Crusade detachment, you only have 4 troop choices and 4 transport slots with your normal command. So you don't have a slot for a tank. You don't have a slot for a support unit. You don't have a slot for a elite choice. You don't have a slot for a shock assault. So I have to find ways to get those detachments. So if I want to bring a Sikaran Venator and I want to bring a Spartan, I have to go find slots that will allow me to do that.
Also, another key thing. Oh, sorry for.
No, good. What were you going to say?
Also, another key thing that is also going to kind of throw a loop. We're going to see how much GW actually knows their game, because some of your legions have their own actual additional detachment that you have to unlock to put in there. So,
well, moreover than that, it's going to get, and this is why I say this again, and I don't mean it as like a vicious attack or whatever else, but anyone who's running events in August that is running 3.0 rules, I don't envy you, and I feel like you should have just run 2.0 through the end of August, because if you take a Pravian, it gives you a new detachment for robots. If you run a what are they called? A Vigilator. It gives you a recon company. If you run a champion, it unlocks its own veteran cadre. Everything can unlock something new. And then you have your individual Legion detachments, and then you have Malefic detachments. It's a shell game. But it is a shell game with what feels like a very open playbook on what you can and can't take. Now, things that are going to trip you up, and this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. In the Crusade detachment, the first command slot and the first troop slot are marked as prime slots. If you read page 283, 283 describes what happens to a prime slot. These are essentially upgrades that unit can get for having been taken in a prime slot. One of those is called a logistical benefit. And what it allows you to do is add one additional force organizational slot to a detachment. So it doesn't let you add another detachment, but it lets you add one of the battlefield roles to your primary Crusade detachment. So if you put a command unit into that prime slot and you take its prime advantage as the logistical benefit, you can add a retinue or an elite or a war engine or a troop or a support or a heavy assault recon. You can add one of those slots into your primary detachment with that prime slot. So if you bring a Praetor, that will give you an Apex detachment. You can open up Vanguard. There's a prime slot in that Vanguard, so you can take an elite unit, give them a prime advantage, and then you can take your Crusade detachment, take a Centurion in that prime slot, give it a logistical benefit. You will unlock two of the auxiliary detachments. Words are hard. You'll unlock two auxiliary detachments, and if you're using the logistical benefit, you can add one of the battlefield roles to your prime detachment without taking a third slot. It's complicated until you see the map.
Yeah, and that's going to be the biggest thing from 2.0, because I feel like 2.0 and everything, you kind of already had your checklist on what you could bring. So you could go through and work the list however you want. And what I mean by that is, like heavy slots, you could put in your heavies first, then you could fill out your tactical. However you wanted to build your list, you knew how it was going to be. I believe now you're going to have to go in order, as in you're going to have to start with your high command, put in your high command slot, look at what it does, and go, okay, this unlocked this and this for me. And then put that. I think you're actually going to have to follow the little web of or little trails that it unlocks for you, instead of just putting in what you want. I think you're going to have to go from top down now, because there's so much stuff you can unlock by adding so much units. It's going to be a mess, but once people figure it out, it's going to be lore accurate, and lists are going to be fun.
Yeah, it's very easy once you understand the roadmap of it. And the easiest way that I found to do it is I'll basically take a paper, I'll draw a bunch of boxes, and I'll link them together. Be like, okay, this box, like, it's very like the neck bone's connected to the shoulder bone.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like,
That's why I said you're gonna have to go from the top down and do your boxes. But once you build like 4 lists and you find your structure on what legion you want to play and how they are built, like certain units unlock certain things. Oh yeah, it'll become easy. It'll become second nature.
yeah, where it's gonna get tricky, and this is something that I'll there's a few people that will agree with me on this. Say you look at a good example of this is World Eaters, right? When I said that they kind of broke the legions up to make you have to really think about the detachments, Rampagers occupy the same slot as Terminators, but Red Butchers are elites.
See, that just kind of like messed with me a little bit in my head, because I'm like, but Gabe, Terminators and whatever have always been elites. But no, I get what you're saying, because I'm thinking with the 2.0 mindset. No, but
Right.
I get.
And
Yeah.
it is a weird flip of the brain, because you're like, wait,
Yeah.
the Red Butchers are Terminators. They're in an elite slot, but the Rampagers are in like the Terminator slot. It's weird. And
Yeah.
then when you look at Death Guard, and like this is one of the things that's going to throw Kyle for a loop. Grave Wardens are in the Terminator slot. Death Shroud are in the Retinue slot, which makes sense, right?
Yeah, because the ones you said in the retinue select, they're the bodyguards, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in the Retinue slot. Hyphen doesn't give you any additional benefits for slot choices. He doesn't have officer of the line.
What?
Yeah, so if you take him, you're taking a spot for just one auxiliary. But when you look at, say, like Thousand Suns, here's where it gets really crazy. Ahriman doesn't have officer of the line. Amon doesn't have the line. A Prosperian sorcerer doesn't have it. Your Sekhmet Terminators fit into an elite slot. Your Kenitai Occult fit into an elite slot.
The Sekhmet Terminators are not retinue?
No.
What retinue do I have?
You don't.
They took it away from you, sir.
And your Castellax Automata, your guys, your little warp fire, like your warp fire guys, the robots you can have with the warp fire cannons on their shoulders. Those are a support squad.
It's fine though, because I get what we're saying. Like we're
It's not bad. It's just they've broken it down to where you're gonna have to stretch the imagination to make all the slots fit.
Well, yes, and not only you have to stretch your imagination, but we have to reimagine how we think about it, because we're saying all these things and we're saying support this, support that, everything going, and it's changing up a bunch of where our pieces are, but it's still, I don't want to say it's the same thing because that's the wrong word. They named our stuff differently, placed them in different spots. They're still good. They're still the same thing. Like you said, we're just gonna have to reimagine how we fit them in a list, and that's fine, because to me that's where you're gonna be able to flex how knowledgeable you are at the game and how good you are at the game before you even get on the table with list building.
Yeah, so like one of the things that cracks me up is I was reading through the White Scars. Man, being a White Scars player is going to be weird. so they made the Golden Keshig an elite slot.
Okay.
They made the Ebon Keshig one of the heavy assault, like the Terminator slot. But the Kazagan land speeders, the land speeders, the Reaper autocannons and all that?
Yep.
Support unit, not a fast attack.
I mean, doesn't that kind of make sense though? Because like, the my headcanon now is that like when we had the slots to take them in 2.0, we weren't able to field the army that we wanted with all them in there because they were fighting for slots. Now, if you think about it, in this new edition, if you wanted to take those all in one army, you can, and that's how they set it, because those would be supporting the elite slots, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be the second wave? So wouldn't, like, lore-wise, that kind of make sense?
Kind of makes sense because they actually were made to be a field support role. That's how they're designed, which isn't bad. The guys who are going to be the weirdest to kind of play right now, 100% going to be Imperial Fists. So Phalanx Warders are now like in the Terminator slot. Templar Brethren are in the Elite slot. But Alexis Pollux got Officer of the Line too, so he gives you 2 detachments.
Oh, so it kind of works itself out right there.
Yeah, like it's just one of those where you're gonna have to mix and match some really weird stuff to make stuff work.
I like that you mentioned a named character now, because this also is going to spark up a thing that I want to make sure this is 100% before we send this out into the warp. I don't think that a thing that a bunch of people are catching is the 25 for the Primarchs or Lord of War. That's just them. That's not now whatever's with them as a unit, like the bodyguards or anything that you attach to them.
So you buy the units individually, right? So if you're looking at the force organization chart, right? Looking back at page 284 of your main rule book. If you look at the Warlord detachment, that allows you to bring a Primarch, a retinue, and a heavy transport. retinues are no longer attached in the list building composition. That's critical. Because it used to be, if I were playing with my army and I wanted to add, say, suzerain to one of my squads, right? That would be the cost of G-Man plus the 175 for the suzerain. And that would bring the overall cost of the unit over like 500 some odd points. Well, now if they take a transport, that's all adding to G-Man's points, and that goes into the 25%. Since the detachment does not allow you to attach the retinue to the model, you're buying it as its own slot, that retinue no longer affects your 25% buffer.
Yeah, because I believe the actual verbiage in that thing is it's like units with the warlord battlefield roll count towards the 25%, and the only things with the warlord battlefield roll will be your Lord of War or Primarch.
Yeah, there's a few small outliers, things like who am I thinking about right now? Scoria may have it. And I know that what's his name? The Great Implacable Banana. The Custode.
Are you talking
Commander.
about my man, fucking Constantine Valdor?
Yeah, he has Warlord.
You motherfucker. I was like, who is he insulting right now? He better not be insulting Valdor, okay?
Yeah. They also have the Warlord trait, so where it's really going to come into effect, right? And this is, now that I say that, I haven't actually read this, but here's where I think it will come into effect. Yep, here we go. How much is he? I have not seen how much Exalted Horus is. Yeah, so here's where that's going to be a thing. So base Horus is 530 points.
Oof.
Horus Ascended is 850. So you're not going to see Horus Ascended in a regular game.
Say that again?
But you're not going to see Horus Ascended in a regular game.
Why?
He's 850 points.
It's 750.
750 is the breakdown.
Yep.
For 25% of a 3,000 point army, which means there's no way to legally bring him.
Unless you go to you're like 100 points off. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
But
does that count? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Never mind. Regular Angron is 450 points. Angron Ascended is 600. That bitch fits.
Yeah. I kind of hate that they put a caveat like 3,000 points is like the minimum you could bring a Primarch. The only is because would there be any Primarchs that could fit in like a 2.5 point game?
No. So that's also the thing. You got to remember, they put a hard limit. You cannot bring a Primarch in games under 3,000 points anymore, period.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, points-wise, would it be possible for any of them to, without the rules, like if we're just playing a casual game, are the points small enough to where they could?
I'd say only 470.
Okay.
Yeah, but okay. So the point he's trying to make is, if you lived in a world where they remove the rule that said you can't bring one under 3,000, where is the point value where you could bring him at 25%? I think it's something like, I think the sweet spot is like 2750.
Yeah, something like that. But that's neither here nor there. That's just me rambling. Can't bring a Primarch in under 3,000 points.
Now, there are a couple of exceptions where you're going to see some changes in how people build lists. I think we're going to see a lot of Primarchs in this edition.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. I think you are. They unlock so... What I like about this edition from what I have just saw, because that was my first big gripe about the last edition. I want to take my Primarch. He is the main focus of your Legion. So to some people, not all. So I know some people didn't like Primarchs having them, and that's a whole nother tangent that we could get to. But They're the main person that's supposed to be leading your army. Now, the fact that we could do that, and they're just not a beat stick. No one. I mean, they are beat sticks, but they're just not like a walking beat stick of like they actually have aura. They actually have presence now. They do a lot of stuff for your army. They unlock other detachments for your army. They unlock different unique things that they could do in different phases of this game now. They are a really good full force multiplier, and they're all different that fit the Legion's theme. And I think that's amazing.
So, to answer your question, Gabe or Christian, if it wasn't for the 3,000 point rule, you could bring Magnus in an 1880 point game because 470 is 25% of 1880.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. So
they're not that
but
expensive,
I could
except
also
for I guess Horus Ascended for some reason.
Oh, because he's
Yeah,
chonky.
But
He's
dude,
you can only bring him in a 35
dude.
like,
No. If we're gonna get into it, let's get into it. So let's talk about the difference between regular Horus and Ascended Horus. Here's the stat line for normal everyday Horus Lupercal. Movement 8, weapon skill 8, ballistic skill, strength and toughness 6, wound 7, initiative 6, 6 attacks, leadership 12, cool 12, willpower 10, intelligence 10, 2 up, 4 up invul.
Hey, don't say all that stuff nonchalant like that's not already just good fucking stats right there,
Yeah,
okay?
that's great stats.
Yeah, that's fucking amazing.
Now let's look at Horus Ascended. Movement 8, weapon skill 9, ballistic skill 7, strength, toughness, and wounds 8, initiative 7, attacks 7, leadership 14, cool 12, willpower 12, intelligence 10.
Yeah, but what also rules does he come with, Gabe?
So his ascended version has a lot of the same like base weapons and all that. The main thing that makes it kind of crazy is he has a rule called Master of War. He allows you to take an additional reaction allotment.
It's pretty good.
In his ascended format, he's allowed to join malefic units.
Okay, that's pretty good too.
Psychers. Okay.
Now, things that make him stupid. Things that make him stupid. He has deep strike. He has a 5 up, feel no pain. He has Eternal Warrior 3.
Jesus.
He has Fear 1. Now, his weapon, World Breaker. Things to keep in mind. It is initiative -2, base attack, strength +4, AP 2, damage 3, critical hit 5+. His War Master's Talon is base initiative, base attacks, base strength, but it's AP 2, 1 damage. It has a Reaping Blow 3 and Shred 6+. On paper, he doesn't read like he's very terrifying. What makes him terrifying is just the fact that he's so hard to kill. He's got better stats than a Contemptor Dreadnought. Do I think he's worth 850 points? Never.
Probably not.
Never. But he's good. When you compare him to regular Horus, like he's a beat stick. But
And putting him with malefic units is gonna be really fucking good, and the points like you're gonna have to take it was probably gonna be a 4,000 point game. So
yep.
And that's the thing too. Like I think when it comes to these different Primarchs that we're taking, not only are we going to have to grade them on what their unique traits are and what they do, but also what legion they're in for them to be like what they're going to be attached with. For instance, you have Suzerain. I don't know if you're going to start taking Suzerain or not with G-Man, or even if you're going to be taking G-Man. But with me, I'm now allowed to take Iron Circle with Perturabo. So, like, I get it. We were always allowed to take some stuff with him, but now at no point cost, I could just roll them up with 3 or 6.
Do y'all want to hear the hill I'm gonna die on? Do y'all want to hear like my number, like having read through all of the books and all the list competitions and all the stuff, all the composition rules.
Okay.
As an Ultramarine player, I am infuriated about one thing in particular. The suzerain are a bodyguard unit. This is established. They're so much of a bodyguard unit that what they do is they get sent to govern worlds. And whenever they're recalled, they don their suzerain armor and they go and they fight and they protect G-Man. It's canon lore.
They're gonna PDF it. It will be okay, Gabe. I promise.
They're not a fucking retinue. They are not a retinue. They're an elite choice. They are not a retinue. Why are they not a retinue?
That doesn't mean that you can't attach it to them, though. But I get the principle, though.
It's the fact that they're an elite. So taking them is so much more difficult. They should have been a retinue because they're G-Man's personal bodyguard. Like, that's their lore canon job. And so you should be like, okay, I take G-Man and then I get them as a retinue. It's like, no, they're elites. Go get a whole nother detachment to add them to your army.
They're off conquering worlds, okay? They can't always be with G-Baby, you know?
It's so infuriating, man. It's... Anyway. Yeah, so the army composition rules aren't difficult. You just have to read through them. They're not too bad. There's going to be small, like I said, there's going to be small caveat things that are going to annoy you. Things like, suzerain being an elite instead of a retinue. Iron Circle got retinue, but suzerain. You know what? I'm pissed about this. I'm so aggravated about it.
Tell us how you really feel, Gabe.
It's infuriating for Ultramarines players because it feels like we're always in this weird rigmarole of like. It's like playing a game with an army of fucking Sour Patch Kids. It's like you hear something cool and then here's a kick in the nuts. Here's something cool and then here's a kick in the nuts. It never really ends. Yeah, I think that's my biggest complaint is just the way some of the slots fill out feels weird. Like you're looking at Hereticus. This is something that we were talking about earlier today. When you look at word bearers, check this out. This was crazy. Ashen Circle are a fast attack. Gal of Warbach are an elite. Argel Tall is a high command.
But it should be that way though, right? Like
I don't know if I consider Argel Tall to be high command. I consider him like the only reason he's high command is because he's the chapter master of a chapter essentially, but he feels more command style. Another one that felt really weird to me was when you look at where are they at?
Because like everything you're saying, I know from a 2.0 perspective, whatever. To me, it sounds weird, but it sounds right if I'm trying to think lore wise with all the lore stuff that we did in our videos. Go check that out if y'all haven't checked that out. About all that stuff from those videos, it Argotol to me should be in a higher up position. Those units should be in the elite, and obviously, like it in my head canon, it fits. I'm not sure if that's right though, but to me it does.
So where do you think Exodus is on the Force organization chart?
Man, it shouldn't be high command. Is he a high command? He shouldn't be.
No, he's not.
Okay. Where is he? Something wants me to say like it'll be funny if he's in a support slot for some odd reason, but
Exodus, Headhunter kill teams, and Lernan Terminators are all elite choices. Yep, take your time with that one.
I'm trying to should Exodus be an elite?
It seems like to me.
It kind of makes sense though, because like you could bring multiple of them because he's. Yes, we all hear Exodus and they're like, ooh, that one model. But the cool thing about him is like there's multiple of him. There could be multiple of him. So
it seems to me like they came up with this idea of how to build an army. And they're like, we're going to have command, we're going to have elites, and we're going to have war engines and troops and support. Actually, I'm going to take war engines out of this. They're going to have command and retinues and elites and supports and heavy transports. You got to split it all up. All right, cool. So what are we going to call a heavy transport? Well, obviously that's going to be our Spartans, our land raiders. That makes sense. Okay, what's going to be armor? Oh, of course, it's going to be the tanks. So the Venatars, the Sicarans, the Predators. Yeah, the Kratos. Yeah, that makes sense. Perfect. All right, cool. What's going to be the elites? Oh, well, we're just gonna be this. Okay, cool. And then what's going to be a retinue? Oh, that's going to be the Terminators. Okay, and then no one stepped up and said, so what does the lore say a retinue should be? Because the lore says the retinue that a suzerain should be a retinue. The lore says that straight up.
but that's like maybe one. Well, I'm not gonna say one out of it, but I'm gonna. There's a couple of them that they got wrong, but I would say like 80% of everything else that they did sounds right. Like fits where it should be.
I don't completely disagree. What it feels like they did was they built the armies up, they made the army composition rules, and then they wrote the slots to balance the legions. Because a lot of the time it feels like they're like, yep, that's a retinue. Explain to me why Phoenix Terminators are a retinue, but Susie's aren't. Right? That doesn't make a lot of sense. What does make a lot of sense is that Justarin are an elite unit. Cool, because Justarin are not bodyguards. They're actual frontline troops. It feels like they use the force organization to balance the list composition. Rather than tell the story the right way, they used it to balance it, is how it feels.
And then I think there's like, oh, we have dreadnoughts. What should they be called? War engines? Yeah, war engines. It could be a whole separate detachment. War engine. Yeah, yep. Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the
I
war
don't
engine
either.
thing. Like
I
that
don't either.
doesn't
But
bother me.
it's just one of those like they built it and then they're like, well, where do we put dreadnoughts? We need to make them their own. They can't be elites. They're obviously not troops. They're not heavy. They're not armored. We'll make their own. We'll make our own. Yeah. War engine. That makes sense. Great. Like that's how I could see that going down in the board meeting.
And there's some where they nailed it. Them making terror squads a troop and making Kantakar an elite. I like that.
All right, to set it in perspective on how we're going about this format, because I know kind of all over the place with it. Kyle, on a rate of 1 out of 10, what would you think about this new verbiage for units in the game and the formations?
It's confusing. I would put it. I would put it at like a 6. I understand what they're going for, but I don't understand why things are the way they are. As a new player who doesn't understand a lot of, I didn't understand a lot of the force org from the last section. So this one is just going to be one of those like I understand how to make the map, to a degree. It just kind of like daisy chains. I think things like New Recruit and Battlescribe are going to be godsends like they were in 2.0 once they figure out how to help you build it. Of course, the books always trump what they have as far as rules and stats and stuff, but to build it, at least they'll be able to help you visualize it.
Okay, Gabe, what is your rating on this?
In actual list composition and building the armies and things like that, I think they nailed it. It's not bad. I'll give it like a 7 or an 8 out of 10. From a lore perspective, it's birdshot, dude. It's fucking everywhere.
But like it yeah. So if you would grade that, because I get what you're saying. I 100% get what you're saying, because it's hard for me to judge that coming from Iron Warriors, because I feel like if I had a grade just on Iron Warriors alone, it's like an 8.5 out of 10. But if I had to put all the legions together and figure out where they messed up, it would definitely be lower. Like how we talk about Ultramarines and Death Guard and stuff like that. So I could see where you're coming from with that.
Yeah, it's just the inconsistency. I mean, it's par for the course for this release so far. There's a lot of inconsistency. Ugh. There's a lot of they nailed it over here and they completely whiffed it over here. Overall, the game's still going to be fun. It's just when it comes to list composition, you're really going to have to think with list composition because of the way they structured it. I really do feel like they used the force organization to balance the game. It was one of the factors in balancing. So it's definitely going to play a role.
Oh, and creativity.
Can you give me examples of a Lord of War?
Glaive, Fellblade, Falchion, Cerberus, Typhon. Those are all Lords of War.
So are they're tanks? Okay.
Yes.
There's some knights, there's some tanks, there's
for actual Space Marine Lords of War. The actual Lords of War that are available to Space Marines specifically out of their codex. Let's see here. Lords of War. Where are you at, Biggins? Come hither, show me your secrets.
If you don't mind me asking you, Kyle, what brought up the Lord of War? What were you thinking about when asking that question?
I'm building an Excel spreadsheet for the image for the podcast here, so people watching at home can see an example of a warlord. Primarchs, high command, praetors, named characters, retinue, cataphracti, Terminator, or cataphracti, Tartarus, and praetor and command squads. You know, like just an example, not anything special. Just hey, this is an example of what a warlord is, what a troop choice is. You know.
So the go-to
that I have.
I can tell you that glaives are gonna be a very, very prevalent thing in this edition. Glaive super heavies are gonna be a thing.
What the hell?
They're gonna be such a thing that I'm actually kind of worried about it. Like, ugh, their gun's so gross. So the main weapon turret on a glaive is called a Volkite Cardinal, I believe. Where's the actual name of it?
So we've got
the Volkite Carronade.
Okay.
So the Volkite Carronade. This is just the primary gun on this big bitch, by the way. Where are you at? Where are you at, Volkite weapons? Show me your majesties. Yeah, here we go. The Volkite Carronade is range 45, 12 shot, strength 8, AP 3, 2 damage, deflect rate. That's deleting a basic squad of Marines a turn.
Okay, that's disgusting.
That's its main weapon. What should also worry people is that the Kratos, which Kyle, you learned about today, you know that main battle cannon that he had?
Yeah.
That can be swapped out for a Volkite Cardinal. The Volkite Cardinal is 12 shot, strength 7, AP 5, 2 damage, suppressive.
Okay.
It's gonna
Yeah.
slap.
We also have to look how many points it is.
Yeah,
I'm still
definitely.
holding hope for like how these missions are gonna play out. That's where my high hope is for this game right now is I hope the missions now play a big part. Yeah, they've always played a big part. Not saying they didn't, but missions holding a big part in this game now, considering everything. I think that's like infantry model or so can score points or hold points is going to be really big. So I don't want to call it on Lord of Wars right now being something that is. I don't personally see it. Gabe, you're probably seeing it from another perspective. Like people are going to bring that one because it is good. It is good.
So would you like me
I'm not
to?
willing to die on that hill, but explain why and let's see if we
Yeah.
could
So
change our mind.
here's my elaboration on why I think that's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Heavy tanks don't suffer conditions.
What?
Okay.
They don't suffer statuses. So say I line up 3 predators.
Yeah.
Actually, for the cost of a big heavy tank, it's going to be like 5 predators. Say I've got 5 predators. If I open up on those predators and I can pin or suppress or stun them, I'm effectively taking them out of the fight for a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
The heavy tanks just go, I'll take a wound and carry on. They don't take statuses. So there's no stunning them or pinning them or doing anything. That does not affect the super heavies. And if you're looking at their stat lines, when you're looking at what they can and can't do, right? So for instance, like fell blades are going to be really fun too. I can't wait to break my fell blade out. Man, let me tell y'all what, y'all are going to see a fell blade. It's got 18 hull points.
Ugh. How do you even?
So what you're saying is because of the new edition, everything's viable right now.
I feel like everything is viable.
Yeah, to a degree.
You know, it's going to come down to your army composition and how you play. Everybody has a list that they've had in mind that they've wanted to play and they want to do something good. A lot of guys want to play tanks, but tanks are so rough in 2.0 because you'd bring them in squads and I'd shoot 1 and blow up 3. It was really dumb.
Okay,
right?
so
With
have to ask.
3.0,
I'm sorry.
go
I
ahead, Kyle.
have to ask. You got me fuckered right here. How? What? What do I have that's going to handle an 18 hull point tank that I can't suppress, shock, or stun or anything?
Oh, so you are picking up what I'm putting down.
I don't.
That's the kicker. Is basically what's going to come down to is a super heavy tank with 18 hull points. Unless you get exceptionally lucky with 10 las cannons standing still, you're not going to ace it in one shot with one unit anymore. You're just not going to. You're going to have a hard time doing that to regular tanks, right?
You get 2.
So
Again, Kyle, back to what I was saying, hopefully missions play a big part. Yes, they're going to delete a unit every turn, that's for sure. But we're not going 5-6 rounds anymore. We're only going 4. There could be a chance that for the first 2 that I outscore you by throwing. It's going to be tactical. Like there's going to be missions. Maybe you don't have to kill it. Maybe you could just outscore it.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that a lot of people in the current compositions are not understanding. The terrain is different. You can't see through a lot of the terrain now.
Yep.
the missions are different. We're actually playing for objectives. There's not as much of a kill heavy orientation that we saw in 1.0 and 2.0. I bring a Fellblade, yeah. I'm gonna kill some stuff. It's gonna happen.
Lord of War Detachment gives you 2 of the little emblems.
Yeah, but the 25%, Kyle.
25% roll.
They're both the Lord of the War with that keyword, so if they both add up to more than 750, can't take them.
Okay, so you can bring one badass and then one like glaive or some shit.
Nope, because glaives are 650 points too.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
yeah.
Now let me
now,
ask you, what's the point of having 2 in your slot if you can never put 2 in because they cost too much?
Because I can bring 2 Typhons at 400 apiece.
And you could also bring those 2 in higher point apocalypse games, Kyle.
Higher point.
Yeah,
I
can bring.
Have more.
This is why I love the new player perspective, because Kyle is asking these questions that we know some person in the comments gonna ask, and they're all good questions. Let's just show you, the guys that are listening to this, if you think there is a so-called stupid question, which there's not, just remember the questions that Kyle just asked us right
you
now.
Can totally be like, okay,
if we accept him, we will accept all of you.
8,000 points. I'm definitely bringing 2 Fellblades against your Titan. Yeah, okay. Titans can take care of 18 whole point tanks. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you go from 3,000 to 3,500, now I can fit 2 Typhons in a list at 400 apiece. So yeah. Lord of Wars, I don't think Lord of Wars are going to be like, oh my god, you're going to see them everywhere. I think you're going to see more than you did in second edition.
Yep.
Because you can't one-shot a Typhon anymore. You can't one-shot one of these big tanks. You can't stun them. You can't suppress them. You're actually going to have to nickel and dime them down.
So is Tormentor considered a Lord of War? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Tormentor is basically like... It's a shadow sword converted into a transport.
How many points is it?
I don't know. It's in the book that hasn't come out yet.
Oh, so we're... Please, God, let it be a dedicated transport or some bullshit so I could...
You make my ass itch.
Purdy needs his fucking G-Ride, okay?
So, there's going to be a lot of things where guys are going to start seeing a lot of different tactics. People are going to be using a lot of different units in this edition because they can.
Yep.
It's going to be a whole thing, man. And especially with the kind of playing that you can do with the Force Org chart. I found a way loosely to get 250 bodies on a field at 3,000 points.
Yeah, but it's going to take you 6 hours to move all your guys.
Bro, he only has to move them once and put them on objectives, and hopefully they stay there the whole time, you know? We only got 4 turns.
Yeah, that is a big change in the list now, is we only have 4 turns. We no longer have the 5 turns and then roll to see if it goes on. It's like, no, you got 4 turns to make up your mind, to make it count.
Yeah, you got 4 turns to kill all these fucking units and see where it goes. Like,
yeah, that was like today. I was playing against I got to play against Josh. You know, I've never actually been able to play against Josh one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And playing against his Solar Rocks, it was like, yeah, you know, these rifle companies, all their rifles are strength 6. I'm like, they're what now? He goes, yeah, their last blasters are strength 6, but I can only move 3 inches and shoot them because they're heavy. I'm like, you get to move and shoot your heavies? Like, it was very Meet the Millers. Like, you guys are getting paid? I was not a fan, dude. And, like, dude, he is just straight up just murder botting all of my stuff. And I'm like, dude, you are kicking my ass here. I would shoot at him. He's like, oh, I'm going to return fire. And be like, all right, but that'll be 26 wounds. I was like, what? I was like, I'm getting outshot by humans. And then he's like, oh yeah, but they're running the Ultramar discipline, so they get +1 ballistic. And I'm like,
You're still in your shit now?
I was like, oh, so I get it. We're doing drills.
Shit.
We're doing drills. Okay, we're doing drills. It was pretty good. I really enjoyed that. And like now in 3.0, I don't know what that looks like because Lehman Russes are so much more terrifying in 3.0.
So, random thought that just came up. Because we're talking about how Lords of War, Primarchs, we think we're going to see a lot of them. You said, and you hit it straight on when you said we're going to see more stuff because people can take them. One thing I'm thinking about taking that I don't see how it's going to be good. I don't know. I'm gonna put it on the table a few times. And Gabe, you know where I'm gonna go with this once you get me that sweet model. An Ares gunship. Now, Ares gunship has a lot of firepower on it. It really does. It's gonna look at things and kill it. But the new flyer rules. Boy, when they made some of the rules and died down like you shooting in flyers from 2.0, you're going to see a lot more deep strike. You're going to see a lot more flyers. But I don't know if you're going to see the expensive ones because you could pay 600 points for an Ares gunship or somewhere around there and probably never even see it on the battlefield. So I don't know how flyers are going to work out. What is your take on that, Gabe?
I feel like I'll say the better part of like 13 years now, Games Workshop has been trying to figure out how to make flyers work, and they keep getting worse at it. Like because originally it was like, yeah, they're supersonic flyers, so you need 6s to hit them when they're supersonic, and some can kick into hover, but if they can't kick into hover and they also can't pivot to make a minimum move, they have to fly off the table and come back as reserves. We were like, okay, that kind of makes sense. And then in 2.0, it was like, they must start in reserve. They fly onto the table. They can fly around the table. They can fly back off the table, but then they have to fly back on again. You're like, okay, it's still pretty dumb. So you almost had to like get your angles figured out of how you were going to pivot and move to stay on the table longer. Now in 3.0, they're like, you fly in, you fly off. Okay, well, what can I do? Figure it out.
Man, if they gave you the first, Gabe, can you explain the rules so people actually know what we're talking about? Why it's messing me up?
So the way supersonic flyers or flyers in general used to work was they would start in reserve. You would fly them onto the table, and then they could stay on the table the entire game, just flying around as long as you could move their minimum distance to keep them at supersonic. Or some models like Fire Raptors, Storm Eagles, Thunderhawks, Silcars, they had a hover where they could kick into hover and just kind of chill. While they were moving at supersonic, it was only snapshots to hit them. When they kick into hover, you can shoot them like regular stuff because they're not flying 200 miles past. I mean, it would be difficult to shoot down an F-16 with a gun. Okay, like people have been trying for a long time.
Why was it bad in 2.0?
I'm just saying it was hard for us to track planes with fucking propellers, much less jet engines and thick armor hulls, right?
Mm-hmm.
In 3.0, the way it works is the flyer starts in reserve, and then you have to pick their mission each turn. So you have to roll a reserve roll to see if they even come in. And then when they come in, you have to select a flyer mission for them to do. And those missions have very strict restrictions on what they can do. They can either like shoot a certain way, or shoot at a certain thing, or shoot certain weapons, or they can unload infantry and then do a certain kind of attack. It's very limited, narrow windows of what they can do in each one of these missions. And then at the end of that mission, they fly off the table again, and you have to roll for those reserves for the next turn. But as many people have understood for a very long time playing this game, and Kyle knows just absolutely emphatically, is that if you need your dice to roll something, it will roll the opposite to spite you.
No shit. Started my game off today, and one of my sniper squads, 5, lost 3 guys on their first roll.
Hell yeah. And the thing that gets me about this is, fuck it. They started the first roll as a 3-up. I think they should have gave you the first one. The flyer comes in, turn 2 automatically, and then you have to roll for it again, but they didn't. Instead, turn 1, your flyer could come on and it's a 3+. Then every time you succeed on that roll, if it comes in, it goes up by 1. So it goes 3, 4, 5, and then a 6. I don't believe it goes up if you miss it, but paying 650 points for a fucking flyer that on the first turn you go, yeah, it comes in, and I'm picking the mission to drop off my custodes that's gonna be carried inside of it. And then, oh wait, I can't shoot because its primary mission is it's going to drop off these custodians on this point. Okay, I want to shoot something. The mission is to shoot something. Okay, but then now I can't drop those custodians anymore because I chose the mission to shoot something.
I get where you're coming from. I understand. I have a Fire Raptor that's never seen the table in 2nd edition. I think in all the time I've played Horus Heresy, I've played against maybe, I'm talking 1.0 and 2.0, I've played against maybe 5 flyers. They are not popular for a reason. GW's never gotten their rules right. They are one of the glaring exceptions when it comes to cool things that we get to see in the game. Flyers have never been it. They're not going to be it.
No, I won't say that they're not going to be it, because I will say if the flyer costs probably 200 or 250 points upwards, you're right, it's not going to see play. I could see people teching in, like I believe they're like Xiphons or stuff like that, like 1 or 2 of them, if they're cheap enough.
Those are some cool looking models, though.
To maybe shoot off some infantry off points or do certain tactical missions like mission play. So I don't want to write off all flyers, but I think if the points are too much, yeah, I'll write those off.
So there's a different nail in the coffin.
Okay.
For Xiphon Interceptors and Fire Raptors and Storm Eagles, right? There is no longer a dedicated flyer slot. Do you know what I mean by that?
They're going to take up a slot for support or something else that could be more beneficial to you.
Xiphon Interceptors, Storm Eagles, and Fire Raptors share the same slot type as Scimitar Pattern Jet Bikes, Javelin Land Speeders, and Land Speeder Squadrons. You will never, ever convince me that a Xiphon Interceptor is better than a Javelin Land Speeder.
I haven't seen the Javelin rules right now, but if they retain the rules from 2.0 and the point cost, then yeah, you're right.
So it is 120 points. It has a front armor of 11, side armor of 11, rear armor of 5 hit points. Even a supersonic flyer, I really can kill that in my sleep. Second thing, like I said, it's 120 points. A Javelin Land Speeder is 75 points. Can take its twin last cannons for 5 points. It is T6 with 4 wounds and can move 14 inches. I will never not take a Javelin over a Xiphon, because I'll get a las cannon and 2 las cannons and a heavy bolter versus a Xiphon, which will give me 2 centerfire las cannons and a rotary missile launcher. It will be what? 120 points versus 80 points. It has an armor value of 11, where a land speeder has a toughness of 6. I'm taking the land speeder Javelin all day, every day.
Long edition, man. You never know. You never know. You might sneak one into a list.
Keep that energy, bro. I believe in you.
I will 8/3/2025. Gabe said it will never take a Xiphon. If I see it, man, I'm gonna take a picture and I'm gonna post it.
It's gonna be like one of those unexpected nudes and be wincing backwards, covering with a towel.
Exactly.
Well, that's like one of the things that I'm kind of excited about. Is like I kind of want to buy a Mastodon now.
I'm glad you said that. Not well, your Mastodon, like a big one. What's the GW game where they have like all the big Titanic models, but they're like really small?
Titanicus.
Titanic, yeah. They when they released all the Horse Heresy stuff with the new models that are coming out, they also showed off the new models that they have for that game, and they had little mastodons, and I was like, that's fucking cool.
So there's Titanicus and there's Legion Imperialis. Titanicus is only Titans. Legion Imperialis is all of the armies in mini scale.
Okay, so that's the one they released the Mastodons in. Yeah.
Mastodons are actually pretty dope. They can hold 42 people. They also have 20 hit points.
Okay, so in your 200 infantry list, did you have extra points to put in a Mastodon?
Do you not even have any extra points to put in rhinos? Are you serious?
I'm just asking. So if you shave down a little bit of those, then you could put a Mastodon or a bunch of rhinos.
Tactical squads cost 100 points, bro. I'm gonna have to shave like a bunch of bodies to fit in a Mastodon. If I was
gonna 200 went down to 150 or something. I don't know, man.
I'll tell you right now, if I'm taking a Mastodon, I'm turning it into a demonic Jack in the Box. I'm bringing just hate units inside of there. That thing, I remember talking to my friend Calvin one time, and he was talking about all these Blood Angels he wanted to shove into a Thunderhawk, and it's like, oh, a Doom Maraca. Because just the shit rattling around in there was just terrifying. I want to do the same thing with a Mastodon, but that involves buying a Mastodon. I don't know. I think it's going to be a fun addition just in the sense of we're going to see less of the cookie cutter default lists. We've talked about that before. I'm excited about it. I just need this PDF to drop so that I can actually build a list. A functional, viable 100% list is what I need to see.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting on.
The other thing I'm waiting on to see is I want to know with all of my little heart, I want to know what else they are going to FAQ between now and when that PDF drops.
Oof.
Because I don't think this initial FAQ was all they're going to do. I'm sure that somebody somewhere walked in there and they're like, in the PDF, make sure you add this and this and this and this and this and this and this because we messed up. And some guy's going like, well, we can FAQ the books. And some other guy was like, we already FAQ the books. All is lost. And they started running around like little aliens in the locker and Men in Black. Right? So I'm eager to see if there's going to be another FAQ for the main books and some of the other things. But for now, I'm still cautiously optimistic. I don't hate what I see. I want to start getting some reps in to really grind the game out and figure it out. I think that's where I'm really working on doing that on the Thursdays, doing some Thursday playthroughs. Even if it's in TTS or with somebody here at the house, I want to start playing through some of the missions and just get my bearings on how the game's really unfolding. So far, all the reports I've heard is people are still kind of speed bumping when they hit the challenge phase because it's a very dense phase. But beyond that, I think it's a great game. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think if we do Thursdays, we do games once we get our bearings around it. Even if it's not a full game, we could go round by round and learn these phases together and learn these new rules just to make sure, because in all honesty, I don't think I've seen a battle report put out there that was 100% played correctly. There's always something that we missed, something that someone missed, or something that someone called out, or things that everyone are just not sure about, that they are probably playing it right, but everyone is just so unsure of it. They're like, let's look into this again. So until we officially see, tournaments or events, I shouldn't say tournaments. When I say tournaments, some people think, oh, competitive. No, I don't mean that. I just mean events where, real people get together and play the game that they love. Until we could get rulings, because, it's a new edition. There's just new things to learn.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hope that we have some players in to watch some of the Thursday playthroughs, and we can all just kind of figure it out together.
Yeah, check out our Discord. That's where you'll see us.
But beyond that, we're gonna go ahead and sign off for the night. Guys, thanks again for listening to another episode of Ramblings from the Warp from Late Night Dice. As always, happy dice, happy life. Fuck Erebus. Have a great one.
Bye, everybody.